to now what is going on the ground in Cairo. Things are getting worse. Look at this. It looks as if there is definitely tear gas on the streets right now in Cairo. We've been watching really these violent clashes between the pro-government and anti-government people right outside Tahrir Square. We're joined right now by Columbia University professor of economics and the former chairman of the U.S. Council of Economic Advisors, a Nobel Prize recipient, Joseph Stiglitz, who, by the way, was just 2 weeks ago in Cairo on several panels and spoke at several different universities. Professor, when you were there, did you have any idea that this was going to happen at all? Did you have any inklings?
Yes, the answer is yes. I was at a dinner the night that Ben Ali resigned. They got the message by telephone showing you how connected the countries are, and the room burst out in clapping. The sense was maybe Egypt was next. And I think that the question was how long it would take, but it seemed to me clear that something would happen. What it was, would it take the magnitude of what has happened, was not clear. But certainly they were waiting. The people I talked to were expecting something like this to happen.
Something like this to happen, and I know you have also warned before that Egypt must reform in order to trickle down some of that wealth from the top tier to the bottom 40% who make less than $2 a day. Had you any idea that this would be the outcome of that lack of reform?
Well, the interesting thing is I talked to some people in the government, and they've been worried about this. I mean, this is not something that they were totally unaware of. They had been trying to deliver more growth to the southern part of the country that has been very disadvantaged. They've been trying to put in programs to help the poor part of the country, poor people in the country, but they were, to put it very frankly, much too slow. And the growth has been too slow, so there's a high level of unemployment. So in that sense, they were sensitive to that there were problems brewing. I think they may not have been sensitive to the length of time. I think they thought they had more time to fix the problems than they did, and they were very slow picking up the severity of what was at issue.
Well, if you were back in Egypt, Professor, what would you be advising the Egyptian government to do right now?
Well, I think that at this point, they have to open up and democratize. I mean, I think there's just no choice. I think they've been very slow at doing this. 30 years perhaps too slow, but I think they can't resist what is going on. Is so powerful force. So I think they ought to follow what has gone on in Tunisia,
right,
where they seem to be in the process of an orderly transition to a constitutional democratic government.
Right.
They brought back some very good people who have come back to help run their economy. And there's a real sense, what I feel from people I've talked to, of national unity. Right. That's the model that they ought to be following.
Sort of, right, exactly, a more orderly. But, what you were, to your point, though, Professor, this 30 years in the making is now spilling out into the streets, and this pent-up frustration that you can see very clearly on your screens right now. Professor, the one thing, though, that we've been hearing over the last several days is, despite these disturbing pictures, despite what we know about, what is going on, within the government, Egypt is still a very small trading country.
The connection is very bad. It's very noisy.
Professor, can you hear me?
Sorry.
Okay.
I know I can't hear you. It's a very bad connection. Can you want to try to say it again?
Okay, let me repeat this real quickly then. A lot of people have said, despite what we're seeing in Egypt, it's not going to spill over into other countries or around the world. Is this going to have, in your view, a contagion effect? Should the U.S., should we be worried about our own economy?
Well, I think there is a real risk that it will spill over. Some of the feedback that I've been hearing is a strong anti-American sentiment because the U.S. has for so long supported these dictators. And that was a strategic mistake. We bought short-term stability at the expense of long-term interest of our long-term commitment to democracy. And it was particularly strong when President Bush, where he kept enunciating a belief in democracy and then just the opposite. Now, in terms of the global economic impact, it's likely, at least in the short run, to be mostly felt through oil. And it's only when the oil exports get affected that the effect will become very significant.
Okay, all right, so we will watch the price of oil. Professor, I apologize for this bad connection. I know it makes for not terribly a smooth conversation, but I appreciate your time.